Yeah, we're on.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I thought that was my initial point, not my start talking point.
Welcome to podcasting.
Welcome to podcasting, everybody. This is Deep Issues number 36. I'm your host, Josh Houslander. With me, as always, Empire Media expert and specialist, Mr. Adam Hernandez, and Deep Issues specialist, although joined us tonight on the music show as well, Ed Zacharski. It's day 5,436. No, 463. A little dyslexic tonight. In the search for Tim Shovelday. Tonight's topic is Flat Earth. How's it going, guys?
Awesome.
Thanks, Alex. The Houslander just fucking everything up tonight.
Sorry, that's my son in the green room knocking stuff over there. But no, tonight's episode is Flat Earth. This is let's start off kind of like full disclosure on this one. We don't have any flat earthers in the studio, do we? Yes, no.
Are we supposed to reveal that at the end of the show?
No. I want some full disclosure on this one, and then we'll get to it. And then we'll see if we're convinced after we're hit with all these amazing facts that the flat earthers say. So, yes, no, we flat earthers here.
Ed's a flat earther.
I am not a flat earther.
Adam?
No.
Yes, you're not saying anything. So are we taking your silence as you're a flat earther?
Not a flat earther.
I'm not going to say they're wrong about everything, but they're wrong about the shit.
No, I think with a phenomenon as big as how many people are talking about flat Earth on the internet, that it is a topic worth talking about, and I think there are some things worth mentioning. Let's get to the bottom of this. Why do people believe this? But I want to throw some history at you guys first, actually, about flat Earth. I hope that at this point, I know this isn't true, but I hope at this point that most people realize that Christopher Columbus did not think the Earth was flat. I don't know why teachers told kids that for so long, but they did. They did. This isn't. You're not dumb for thinking it necessarily.
I was taught that in school.
I was taught it too. And I went to a very good school.
Well, they didn't teach us that Christopher Columbus thought the Earth was flat. I think they taught us that everybody else thought the Earth was flat.
Right, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry, Adam. You are absolutely right. That Columbus was the renegade who was going out, and they thought he was going to fall off the face of the Earth when he went that far.
Some of his crew supposedly thought they were going to fall off the face of the Earth too,
supposedly again. Truth be told, sad truth be told, there are far more people in 2019 who believe that the Earth is flat than there were in 1492.
Well, there are also more people.
There are.
It'd be more accurate to compare a percentage. But...
I actually was going to jump into that. I don't have those numbers in front of me. I don't have those numbers in front of me.
You're right, though, because it doesn't even appear to be a phenomenon.
I am fairly certain that the percentage is higher now than it was in 1492, but I don't know that. I know for certain there are more people that believe that. Now, you can say, yeah, there's a hell of a lot more people now than there were in 1492, but take other silly things that people believed then, and you're going to be hard-pressed to find a whole bunch of them that aren't true then.
Yeah.
You know, that more people believe now than believed then. Truth is, most of the world, and I'm not just talking about the super smart people or the rich people or the kings and queens, most people in the world thought that the Earth was round, despite never having any state-sanctioned education to tell them, or any educational training, or to know anything about science at all. Not many people thought that in 1492, especially in Europe. You know, that's just not how it was. It was Aristoteles, who is typically from ancient Greece, who is typically considered one of the first guys who started talking about how I think this thing is round, and this was noticed by the Greeks and Romans and others. I bet the Chinese were doing the same thing. That's not the history I'm as familiar with, but people noticed that you see the front of the boat go away first, and then you see the back when a ship leaves.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're one of these people, and there are very, very many of us out there who are told that a whole bunch of people thought the Earth was flat when the explorers started leaving the ports in Europe in the 1300s, 1400s, 1500s, 1600s. It's just not true. It's just not true. It's something that you were taught in school that simply isn't the case. I think they're off that now, for the most part. As much as I have complaints about modern day education, I'm pretty sure for the most part they're off that now.
Why did he call the people that he met Indians if he thought he was going to the edge of the
Right.
Earth?
He thought he was.
It doesn't make sense.
He thought he was in the West Indies. He thought he was in India. That's why he called them Indians. But again, in that I'm lumping Ed in. I shouldn't. I was wrong. Adam was correct by saying that no, it was never taught that Columbus was that guy. It was that Columbus was the visionary who had to convince the powers that be in Europe to let me go, and I'm not going to fall off the edge. There's a guy named Samuel Rowbotham who did the Bedford level experiment. This is in the 1800s now. And this guy he's one of the original guys. Now, I'm not here to actually run Samuel Rowbotham's name through the mud because this is the 1800s, okay? We've never been to space. We don't have computers. We don't have any of this stuff. He's trying an experiment, okay? That's, many people back then were trying experiments and trying to figure this is how we learned things. But he came to the conclusion that he thought that perhaps the world was flat by doing these Bedford level experiments. Basically, he put his homeboy in a boat and sent him off, and he sat on shore with a telescope, and he just said he could just keep seeing them forever. And he thought, if the world isn't flat, then I should stop seeing them any minute now, and he just didn't. Just kept seeing them. So that was his conclusion. This became a field known as zetetic astronomy. He wrote a book called Earth Not a Globe and came to the scientific conclusions using some decent science of the day, not total garbage, but came to the conclusion that he believed that the Earth was not a globe, that the sun and the moon were about 3,000 miles above the Earth, and the cosmos was about 3,100 miles above the Earth, so not much further than the sun and the moon. He then, later, towards the end of his life, released a leaflet called The Inconsistency of Modern Astronomy and Its Opposition to the Scriptures, because a big part of what he was saying was based on biblical beliefs, too. Here's where a lot of people, I would hope even then, were against him. Now, I'm a very religious guy, I'm a very spiritual guy, but the idea that you take the Scriptures and then try to say that that's science is kind of folly. Some of the best scientists of, pre-modern age were Christians. Some of them were priests. Some of them were monks. These were excellent scientists. They didn't do this. That wasn't a thing. You believed stuff in Scriptures. You had faith in stuff from Scriptures, but you didn't. You did scientific experiments to prove the science. So he loses me by quite a bit there. I'm not going to get into them as much as I did with Rowbotham, but William Carpenter, Alfred Russel Wallace, if you're into this, were big-time followers of his and also were members of the Universal Zetetic Society that existed before this. But this isn't the modern flat Earth people that we're talking about. This is 1800s. In 1956...
Pick up six.
Yes. The leftovers of the Zetetic Society, which was never that big, the leftovers of that are kind of re-brought back together. Bedford level experiments are being talked about again, and a guy named Samuel Shenton begins the International Flat Earth Society. He's from Dover, England, and he runs this thing until he dies in 1971. So many of you may have been, some of you listening may have been alive, may have been peers with this guy. The guy that comes next that may or may not, I don't know if he was ever a household name, but I remember hearing about this guy when I was a kid, and that's Charles K. Johnson. He inherited a big part of Shenton's library from Shenton's wife, and he grew the International Flat Earth Society to a whopping roughly 3,500 people worldwide. This is who believed in the Flat Earth Society for decades. As you know, as the three of us here are kids and growing up, he grew this to about 3,500 people. They had a membership which began as $6 a month and went as high as $10 a month later. And people may remember this because I remember this. Used to publish the what does it called? The Flat Earth Quarterly, basically. So it was a tabloid. It was a little 4-page tabloid thing that came out every quarter, and it talked mostly about flat Earth junk, but other stuff as well. It was a tabloid. It was like a little mini Star or Sun or National Enquirer or one of those. When I remember this guy dying when I was, some years back, and people kind of saying like, all right, is that finally the end of this whole, International Flat Earth Research Society that's been kicking around, and mostly just a joke for people for the last, for their entire lives. But in recent times, Flat Earth has had an enormous resurgence, a huge one. It's all over the internet. I mean, type Flat Earth into YouTube or Flat Earth into Google, and you're going to see thousands of videos. A lot of them are people making fun of it. But there are a lot of people out there who believe in the whole Flat Earth thing now. It's back, it's bigger than ever, and people are on board. So I guess the question is, what do modern Flat Earthers believe? What are the basics? There are ice walls all around the Earth. It's a disk, not a globe. It is a disk. There is an ice wall all around us. That's what keeps all the water and all the stuff from falling off, or keeps cats from pushing it off the edge, as people like to joke on the internet. Gravity is a hoax. That's pretty standard. No matter what, we're going to break down some of the different Flat Earth people, if you will, in a little bit, but that's a pretty standard thing, is that gravity is a hoax by the government and NASA and everyone else. There is no gravity. That's made up. The sun revolves around us.
So Sir Isaac Newton was a bunch of...
Totally.
He was a bullshitter.
Right, and every other scientist too. And the sun either revolves around us or it just passes back and forth past us, in essence.
Why is it that everything else is around, like the moon and the sun and the stars, but not the Earth?
That seems to vary amongst the Flat Earthers. Some of it breaks down to all that stuff, the existence of, the moon as a, the moon, Mars, everything. That's all just lies from NASA. So some of them believe that. Some of them really, truly believe that they're all round and we're flat. A little while ago, Elon Musk got into it with some Flat Earthers on Twitter, I believe it was. And, because he basically just asked the question, well, how come there isn't a Flat Mars Society? And they said, well, we have photographic proof that Mars is a sphere. And he just started, spamming them with pictures of the Earth as a globe. But let's run down real quick. These are some things that Flat Earthers say. Some of them are really ridiculous, but this is them. They're trying to educate us Globetards, as they call us. Is that what they call us? Yeah, Globetard. We're all Globetards.
We're Globetards.
They're creative, at least.
Yeah. All the Globetards that basically. One of the top ones is all of us Globetards have been indoctrinated, we've been lied to, and we've been brainwashed, of course, to believe that the Earth is round, the Earth is a sphere, because we believe in scientism, as they like to call it, because that's just it's not real science, it's just kind of a fake. It's scientism. It's what we it's like what we like to say. Density and buoyancy is the reason why stuff falls. It's not because of our magnetic magic that us Globetards believe in. It's just density and buoyancy. Water doesn't curve. Water seeks its own level. Moonlight is cold. This proves that. Actually, I don't know what that proves, honestly. I think by them talking about moonlight being cold is them saying that it's not the sun that heats us, that the moon is an active thing that cools us. They prove this by saying, okay, when the sun is heating us and you're under an umbrella, it's cooler under the umbrella because of that. But when it's nighttime, the moon is cooling you because when you're under the umbrella, it's warmer. They're not taking into the fact that now there's nothing heating you, so then the wind is a cooling factor, and now you're being protected from wind or other elements, or it's generating heat within that enclosed area. How can our atmosphere exist if it's right next to a vacuum? 8 inches to miles per second is the formula they like to use. I'm not a math guy, but somehow by them throwing out that equation constantly, it's supposed to prove that, I don't know, that we're wrong. How can water flow uphill? This is a good, valid question. I mean, again, they're kind of taking up the idea that everything's up. You know, up doesn't really mean up when you're on the Earth. Up just means away from the Earth. You know, none of us. It's not like while we're walking upright, the people in China are walking upside down. You know, that's not what Globetards are trying to say. But I guess that's how are we closer to the sun in the winter? That's again, I can't really explain that one, but that's I don't know. I already said how can our atmosphere be next to a vacuum? Because I think they really think that when you say vacuum, I mean, I'm not a science guy at all. I'm terrible with science, but vacuum means that there's nothing, right? That means nothingness. I'm right about that, right? That just means an absence of anything, pretty much. But I think they really think a vacuum is like a vacuum cleaner, like it's gonna be sucking the atmosphere off. And how does water stick to a spinning ball? That's the one you hear constantly. Like they demand proof they want somebody to stick water to a spinning ball and spin it around really fast. And
so these
and if you can't do that, then you can't prove that the Earth is a sphere.
So they have there's no concept of physics with these people.
Prove it, Adam. Grab yourself a ball with some water and prove it, man. Prove to me that the Earth is a sphere by pouring water on a ball and spin it. They always say they like to say 1,000 miles an hour. Spin it at 1,000 miles an hour. Like just like once you get into like numbers that have more than like triple digits, that's like might as well be infinity.
That's the point.
Yeah. Like that. So that's their thing. But this is a conspiracy by Big Globe. We like to talk about big pharma. We like to talk about big government, but the flat earthers like to refer to us Globetards. We're just believing what Big Globe tells us. The Big Globe lobby is out there. It's real, and we're just not buying it. We're not buying it. Because we're Globetards. Okay. Now, I think one of the top questions of this, before we kind of break down some of the things that are maybe even some legitimate questions they raise, but I think that the top question to ask is, do they actually believe it? I mean, is this just a meme, or is this what percentage of flat earthers are a meme? They're just doing this for the lulz.
At least some do, and I think some of them are probably into it for the shilling. Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. Like, how many of them are just being goofy, and how many really do believe this? I know it's not 100% on either level, but I think a lot of these people are just trying to F with us.
I think actually some people do legitimately believe it, just for very poor reasoning purposes. They come across something that they realize indeed is not true, they were lied to in some way, and just discard everything that they know about reality and just start without question believing in other things.
Well, and in essence, what's happening there? Because there's definitely some that believe it for sure, and I think what's happening there is accuse people, and hey, I'm somebody that accuses people of this from time to time, is that, like, you just believe whatever the TV tells you. You know, you're a sheep. You believe whatever Fox News tells you. You believe whatever CNN tells you. You believe whatever your teachers tell you. But these people are they're making that claim whilst believing whatever YouTube tells them.
But here's the thing with that is that, you know what, as much as I absolutely hate the mass media and just about everything that's on TV, it's not a complete lie. In fact, part of the problem is that it often involves an element of truth.
Mm-hmm.
You can't discard it 100%, and that's what they're essentially doing. They come across something, they say, oh, let's take the exact opposite of that, but that is also a lie. It's like a false dichotomy. It's certainly a lot of what they're coming across.
If you will, because you started to do it off air, break down what the basic. You said you kind of had a basic, like, quick rundown. Break down your theory.
So I think that essentially the way people get corralled into this is they usually having something to do with, like, NASA or the moon landings. They start to realize, hey, something doesn't add up. Maybe I don't believe in the moon landings. Wait a minute, the Earth isn't round. And no doubt the government and NASA have lied about a great deal, but that doesn't mean they've lied about the shape of the Earth. And I think that's actually probably, from what I can tell, probably the most common entry point in this. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of this is actually purposeful disinformation, and there's definitely some money to be made in it. I mean, you could probably start a Flat Earth YouTube channel. It doesn't look like they're getting banned at this point, so get it monetized, get yourself enough followers, and you could probably make a living off of it.
Well, YouTube has made it hard for everybody to get monetized.
Yeah, they have. They definitely have. Okay, there's kind of three elements here. I kind of want to, three different directions I want to take this. But real quick, because I don't have much to say about this guy. If you want to kind of look up a kind of goofy cat from the past here in the U.S., there's a guy, Wilbur Glenn Voliva, who, in essence, kind of like almost took over. He wasn't directly part of the International Flat Earth Society, but he was a big-time flat earther who believed this, and almost basically took over this small town of Zion, Illinois, and, like, made this, like, fact there. He like brought this to the attention of travelers, and it was even, like, taught in the schools and things. And his belief was that, the sun is only a few thousand miles away, and it's only 32 miles long. And what's kind of weird about it is, like, when you check out some of his science, like, it works. It works the same way. Well, if that were the case, that really would be, like, it would have the same effect as what our sun has. But he kind of, like, took over this town and just turned it into, like, a little mini, like, flat earth haven for some time. So I don't want to do a whole podcast or even dedicate too much time, but if you want to look it up, Wilbur Glenn Voliva was he's an interesting cat there. But one of the ones I want to kind of break off into is, Ed, you mentioned that a big starting point for a lot of people who become flat earthers is the moon landing being faked and NASA is a lie. I want to segue that into a different one. So I'm going to do the first one I want to do is the biblical links to it. A lot of people, for religious reasons, kind of believe that the Bible talks about the flat Earth. I'm a Christian. I'm a Catholic. I've never seen this myself. I'm not a Bible scholar by any means, Old or New Testament. I've read it, cover to cover a handful of times, but I'm no scholar. The problem I have with this, and I guess they would just tell me, well, it's because these institutions are run by Globetards, but none of the major religions believe this.
No.
None of them. None of the major or even semi-major or minor religions believe this. people who are anti-religion may criticize some Christian religions for what they believe or what they say or some of the things that they believe that don't completely line up with science. But no, not the Catholics, not the Baptists, not the Presbyterians, not the Episcopalians, not the Muslims, not the Jews, not the Hindus, nobody believes this on an official level. None of these organized religions believe this. I know of no non-denominational Christian churches that teach this. And yeah, there are the ones out there who take a big, there are the like non-denominational Christians who question the belief of dinosaurs. There are some that question some other beliefs. Over in China, there are many people who still believe dinosaurs didn't exist, those are just leftover dragons. They don't believe the earth is flat. There's questionable beliefs are held by some of these groups. The earth not being a sphere is not one of them. It just isn't. So I don't much see the link to them saying, you go to Wikipedia. The Wikipedia page on this, by the way, is terrible. I totally understand the kind of poking fun at the flat earth thing, but I'm normally a big fan of Wikipedia. I think it's a good place to get like starter information on topics, but it's terrible. They make it act like they act as if flat earth is, something that Christian biblical zealots are pushing, and it's not. It just isn't the case. That's not really where it stems from. I think Ed is right to say that most people come from a conspiracy, anti-moon landing, anti-NASA stepping point is where I think most of this comes from.
No one picks up the Bible and is like, whoa, the earth is flat. Like, you have to deliberately misconstrue verses, which is what they do. Mm-hmm. They go through and sort of cherry pick and try to well, this could mean this, and mm-hmm. and that's the only way you get to that point.
Right.
you would not get that as an interpretation from reading it on your own.
But you can do that with a whole bunch of stuff. The Bible's a long book. You can do that with a whole bunch of stuff. There are strange things.
And that's one of the problems with the Bible too, is just the metaphors and the interpretations.
Yeah. And I would go as far to say, and yes, I know I'm biased, but I don't know that it's a problem with the Bible as much as it's a problem with people reading it. But you're right, Adam. You're
and
totally
you need context for some of this stuff.
Right.
It makes the meaning completely changes if you know the situation it was set in.
Right. And translations of the Bible are huge too.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of blatant errors.
Yeah, I've read the Bible several times, but I have no problem with the scholar telling me, asking me, have I read it in Aramaic? Have I read it in Hebrew? No. Well, then you haven't even read it, so just get out of here. Yeah, when I hear people say that, I think, yeah, you know what? I can't argue with you. I can't argue with you at all. If you don't speak Hebrew or Aramaic, then you probably don't even know what you're talking about. Another thing flat earthers say a lot is that photographs can be manipulated. Photographs are manipulated, especially by NASA, and NASA can't be trusted. And it's a good point.
Where's the lie?
Yeah. When someone says you can't trust a photograph, photographs can be manipulated. Yeah, you're right. No, that's true. That's true. And when people say you can't trust NASA, I agree. NASA lies all the time. Past, present, future. Boom. NASA lies constantly. Does that mean the Earth's flat? No, not really. It really doesn't. I guess I can get on board with a lot of conspiracies. There really are. There are a lot of conspiracies that some that I believe in. There are some that I don't necessarily believe in, but I can give some credence to. This is just, if this were true, that the Earth is flat through conspiracy reasons, not just because we're wrong. Because keep in mind, those people back in 1488 who thought the Earth was flat, they didn't think it was flat because the kings and queens were lying to them about it. They thought it was flat because they thought it was flat. They were wrong. They were thinking that. They believed it because they believed it, because they were told it, or because it made sense to them. kind of makes sense. Nobody sees the Earth all at once. You just see what your little body can cover at that point. And like Shaq says, who is unclear whether or not Shaq is a actual flat earther or not.
Didn't he come out and then he sort of like rescinded it? Probably because he got
I think
so much
but
backlash.
but like Shaq said, he said, "Hey man, I've driven from L.A. to New York straight through. It seemed awfully flat to me."
It's scientific.
You know, I mean, hey, I'll give him credit. I drove from Palo Alto to Detroit, not quite as far, just recently, and yeah, I mean, it didn't seem like it was curving. I'll give him that, I guess. But it never once occurred to me that, like, you know what? I've been driving straight for a long time. I don't think this place is a sphere. I mean, that definitely didn't occur to me. It definitely didn't. I don't think that this is a vast conspiracy by the Globe lobby to sell more globes to schools. I'm pretty sure they could sell flat pieces of plastic instead. Though I don't really buy that either. I don't know that anyone says that seriously or if that's more of a joke. I'm not really sure. It's hard to tell sometimes what the, you know, and I guess if I were going to defend the flat earthers at all, so many of what we accuse them of believing is stuff that individual flat earthers have said when put on the spot. You know, they're in an argument and they're question about something and they say it. So there isn't like there's very few things that the Flat Earth Society has confirmed as their rock solid beliefs, which then makes it tough for the flat earthers trolling the internet to to make a point, I guess, because it's kind of hard to make this point when there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of scientific evidence to back any of this up. Okay, like you said, Ed, you know, there is... I'm going to try to tie this into a couple of different conspiracies here. You know, keep it on the conspiracy level since this is deep issues. There's the moon landing, the Illuminati, the aliens, Satanists, a lot of different things that we've discussed on past deep issues shows. And some of them, secret societies for one, moon landing, we've given some credence to. And we've talked about how we've never been unanimous on these things. We've talked about how there could be some legitimacy there. There could be some truth to that. But if this were the case, this would be such a vast conspiracy that has been going and being pushed and contrived by the powers that be and the governments of the world and secret societies for 4 centuries, at least, probably more like 6 or 7 centuries, that this would have had to have been pushed by the elites. Now, if you're somebody that believes in the Illuminati and that they have been around for that long, pushing some of these things, and that they are a satanic force that knows the truth about the earth and wants us to believe that the earth is round so as to throw off their occult ways, well then, I mean, I feel like is crazy as that sounds, if you're a flat earther, I feel like you better believe that. You should believe it. You almost have to. Because that makes more sense than we've been wrong about it all this time. You know, and we're just not willing to accept the facts of, you know, the water and the stick experiment. You know, I feel like you're better off. You really should believe that Illuminati or aliens are controlling us and spreading this disinformation about around Earth, so we will be kept in the dark and not realize the truth. I can wrap my head around a lot. I can't really wrap my head around that, though, honestly. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
I mean, just because something has been a conspiracy for hundreds of years wouldn't necessarily mean it's not true. I mean, just look at the history of monetary systems. I mean, the Federal Reserve's just our current incarnation, and how many people really know just like its origins, or just actually how the system works, and basically fucks over, at this point, most people of the planet, either through devaluing their money or forcing them to use a devalued money. So really, everybody. And a lot of people don't have the first clue of how it works. And you bring up, oh, hey, the Federal Reserve is actually privately owned in a way, and oh, that's a conspiracy. And like you get the same reaction as this, and that's something that I think the three of us probably on the other side of the debate all kind of believe in to some extent. So I don't know that you can argue it that way, but yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. Like you can do experiments to prove the Earth is round. You don't have to actually just.
And this vast conspiracy would entail either airline pilots are in on this, or they're being fooled in some way to believe this. Because, we know that you leave California and fly west and you can get to Japan. We know that. That's what we do. It's...
I found quite interesting, actually, one of the things you would come across is like airline routes, and how they'll show them on like a flat Earth versus a globe, and it's like, hey, this only makes sense if the Earth is flat, and like it completely ignores geometry and like winds and things like that would actually, like, just because you're looking at the globe and you launch an airplane from here to there, looking at it from overhead, that actually doesn't mean that it's necessarily the best route to take. Like, there can be other factors involved.
Yeah, and again, like, I am not a scientist. I'm so far from that. I'm educated in some ways, but science isn't it. I don't pretend to know much about hard science, philosophy and things like that. The softer sciences, I know those, but the hard sciences, not my thing. But why is it hotter at the equator then? Right? If it's flat and the sun's just passing back and forth, then it should just be hot wherever the sun is. Right?
But don't they show the isn't it like the center, because the center is Greenland, and so that's cold, and then the ice wall, so maybe presumably somehow that inside ring gets to be the warmest. Like, but I'm just trying to.
No, I'm sure that's what they would say, but yeah, it is one of those things where, but the sun's passing back and forth, so it only makes sense.
The heat doesn't come from the sun; it comes from, I don't know.
That only makes sense because even then, like, if it was flat, it would still have it'd be like a dome then. Like, it'd be closer to the sun that is passing.
Maybe
over.
The turtle we're sitting on, like, the equator is the edge of his shell, and that's where the heat dissipates to, and it rises up.
I like that you brought up the turtle. That is... And I know that that's not what the modern flat earthers believe. That's more of like an old, I think it's a Hindu thing or something. But yeah, that's like the class. Like, of course the Earth's flat. How else would it fit on the turtle's back? It's flying us around. Yeah. But hey, the flat earthers wouldn't like that, because even with that ancient tradition, it was the turtle flying around the sun. like even with that tradition, they were more accurate, because it was, like I said, we were on the back of the turtle, but the turtle was what was flying us around the sun and spinning and causing us to rotate and making us revolve around the sun, and the other planets were following us. Like that actually makes much more sense than.
So I want to know what happens when you try to dig a hole to China, like. So you're not going to get to China anymore. Like, what happens when you get to the bottom? Do you just fall to your death, or to in space?
Yeah, I guess. I guess, yeah. If you were the kid trying to dig the hole to China, and no, that's a good thing that you bring up too, because this idea of like little kids, like, oh, I'm going to dig a hole to China. This is something that's like a game or a fun thing that kids have said for centuries, because even uneducated little kids know that the Earth is a sphere. So like, hey, cool. That means if I keep digging, I'll end up in China. Yeah, like that's. But no, that's just. I mean, well, that in those kids' defense, it's only because their Globetard parents told them that. So, you know, they can't really be blamed for that. Ignorant children. They've been brainwashed by the Globetard.
But I mean, like
Globetard
elites, like volcanoes. Like, where does? I mean, theoretically speaking, if where would?
Well, they say it's a sphere, so it is 3-dimensional and it has some thickness. You know, who knows how thick it is. So.
They say it's a sphere, but it's flat.
No, it's not a sphere. It's
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, a cylinder. It's like a really short cylinder.
Okay.
It's spherical, but not.
That's where, and sorry if I'm screwing this up. That's where the 8 inches to miles squared thing comes into it, because I believe, is that a parabolis? Is that the it's been a long time since I took geometry.
Essentially, it would be like
but
it would be like a coin. Essentially, is what you'd be looking at.
Yeah, it's like a plate.
You know what?
It's like a plate, is what they say. So
I mean, the bottom line with this is, even if NASA was lying to us, and I mean, we can go and we can prove that. We can prove that it's, you know, what we're living on right now is a sphere. Mm-hmm. But an amateur astronomer who buys a $500 telescope off of Amazon could go and see that Mars is round.
Yeah.
They can go and see that the moon is round. They can see that other planets are round. So
okay, why that's what Ed was saying, though, because I guess the thing is, it is a circle to the flat earthers.
Yes.
It's not a sphere.
No, but even amateur astronomers can tell that it is a sphere, though, when they look at Mars and when they look at other planets.
Maybe we just need to.
They can see that based off of the shadows that are cast on it by the sun and by other light sources.
Right. If it was.
So even if that's the case, why is everything else round and spherical and the Earth isn't?
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't a sphere, then a single picture would reveal the whole thing.
Yeah, and and what I just said is just it's such an asinine concept based on, why would you even have to say something like that? I mean, it's just so stupid. So I'm sorry, I'm breaking out into that now.
No,
but
it's okay. It's all right. I mean, and that's why I kind of brought it up the way I did. Where I said it's a sad truth, and that's showing my opinion on this matter. But it's a sad truth that more people believe this now than they did in 1480. Despite what your teacher may have told you in elementary school. And I think most of the people who believed it in 1480 weren't dumb. I don't think they were dumb. I think they just, Well,
they didn't have the technology.
Right.
They didn't have, they didn't have, the knowledge of science that people have now.
It's like calling a 5th grader dumb because they can't reduce fractions.
Yeah. Like I said,
but I will call somebody who's graduated from high school dumb who can't reduce fractions.
It's not like everybody who even believes in this is like a complete idiot.
No,
it's like sometimes these are. I mean, you can say that about anybody though. Like you can take any person who is above average intelligence to genius level, analyze all of their beliefs, and they're going to believe in stuff that just flat out isn't true. And there are people who are relatively intelligent who fall into this flat Earth. And that's why I think it's just a wrong turn when you dive into some conspiracy. And I think to an extent this is actually like purposely promoted because of that. Mm-hmm. And part of it is like I'm personally one of those people who think that NASA, like pretty much every branch of the government, lies to us. Mm-hmm. They're not lying to us about this. Like I don't think they are.
For one thing, it's not even NASA that's telling us this.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, NASA says that the Earth is a sphere,
Well,
but it's
I say that because they that's what they use as reasoning.
Right.
Like they're the ones where all this evidence supposedly, even though they're not, comes from. They lied about the moon landing. They lied about X, Y, Z. Therefore, the Earth is flat.
Okay, even for me, I think you've got to look at the reasoning behind a lie. Like, you could see a reason, although I don't believe it. I do believe that we landed on the moon, but you can see why.
I do too.
You can see why NASA would lie about something like that, just because of the space race. They wanted to, they wanted to beat the Soviet Union to the moon. So you can see why NASA would lie about something like that. You can see why a bunch of different government agencies might lie about something, whether it's
they're all sinister.
Yeah. Okay. Government is, for the most part, in every part, very, very bad. But what's the reasoning behind lying about whether or not the Earth is flat?
Adam, I agree with you, and I think it's a valid question. It's a question we've raised on other deep issues programs.
Like, is it? Yeah. Like,
I can believe that the government's lying to you, but you got it. But I don't think they lie for the hell of it. They lie because they're sinister, sure, but that it doesn't benefit anyone to make up something goofy and just tell everybody.
Yeah, did guys at NASA just sit there and be like, hey, you know what? Let's throw this one out there. Let's just say the Earth is round just for the hell of it and fuck with everybody.
I mean, I don't know if you're supposed to believe that. Well, because Columbus believed that the Earth was round, and we were taught that, and then when NASA found out, it's not round after all, and you can't even leave this place, and there is no moon, or whatever it is that believe that now we have to continue this lie. Like, they would be the heroes of the world if they could prove that. Look what we found out. It's something incredible.
And again, I could see why, they might lie about, UFOs. They don't want to start, some type of panic or anything like that, especially with, movies that have come out. And, I can see why they might want to deny something like that. There is no rhyme or reason, though, for them to sit there and deny the shape of the Earth for all those decades that they have.
I agree, Adam. And I agree with Ed as well in the point he made, or the beginning of the point I think you were going to make, that I believe, as somebody that believes many things, or several, as a person that believes several things that are labeled as conspiracies. That, people say, oh, you're just a crazy conspiracy theorist. Oh, got your tinfoil hat on, Josh, you're crazy. Oh, you really believe that? I do think that certain things like this are pushed to make conspiracy theories as a whole look dumb. To when you bring up a conspiracy theory that's valid, that, oh, you probably believe the Earth's flat. To lump serious conspiracy theories in with the ludicrous conspiracy theories to make it look like anybody that believes anything that they saw on YouTube or read on the internet or doesn't go with the exact official story of a government or the powers that be is a crazy conspiracy theorist who wears a tinfoil hat and is, living in his parents' basement and is nuts. I do believe that they do get pushed. This isn't the only one either. There's some other goofy ones out there that I think fall into that as well. Can I bring up something that I think is actually maybe worth a damn in this whole would-be conspiracy? And that is findings of Admiral William Byrd, who was a famous explorer, very well respected in his time, explored both the North Pole and the South Pole, Antarctica, as well, does that count as the South Pole? Kind of, not quite the South Pole, right? Antarctica? The beginning of Antarctica is not the South Pole, right? Yeah. Okay. So he explored the Antarctic, the South Pole, the North Pole. And he found a lot of cool things. And I do believe that some of the things he found and some of the things he wanted to say after his journeys, I do think maybe the government tried to cover him up a little bit. And I do think they tried to silence him afterwards, because they were all about him at first. They were all about this super respected guy that was going to these places and wanted to hear from him. And then when he started saying stuff that started wanting to tell people what he found, all of a sudden they didn't want to hear from him quite as much anymore. And I do believe that he found some things that don't quite fit the narrative. Does that mean that the Earth is flat? No, it doesn't. Just like Ed said before, does the fact that there are questions that have gone unanswered for decades about the moon landing videos, does that prove that the Earth is flat? No, it doesn't. Sorry, there's still. I want the answers to those questions too. I want to know why the flag's waving. I want to know what the I want to know what the picture that kind of looks like a movie light in the reflection of the one astronaut's helmet is. I want to know why the landscapes don't look the same. I want to know why it looks like they're carrying a bag that's really heavy when all science says that bag should weigh like 6 pounds on the moon. These are questions. And they may have answers that they may be very answerable, but NASA doesn't ever want to seem to answer those questions. They want to answer dumb stuff instead, and they want to be caught in lies constantly. And like Adam said, maybe they're lying for national security.
I hate that excuse.
I do too. I hate it too.
When did we hear that? We heard that a lot around these recent wars we've started. So.
I hate the reasoning behind lying for national security, but I don't deny that it may happen and that people may do it. And
sure. Like if it was actually legit happening for the real reason. The problem is it's hard to trust the current. Really, anybody in the government is actually doing it because they have your best interest.
Yeah, no, exactly. I don't want to be lied to for national security, and I don't want any of you guys to be lied to for national security reasons. But if that is the case, then we can't discount that somebody, running the nanny state believes that you shouldn't be privy to this information. So, is that NASA, or is that an agency above NASA saying this is what you're allowed to tell the people? You want your money. You want your funding, then you're not allowed to talk about this, and this. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's a whole bunch of scientists at NASA who think, damn, I wish I wouldn't have signed that NDA. If I didn't have this non-disclosure agreement where they could throw away all the money I've made for my whole life and wreck the lives of me and my kids, then I'd be all over the news saying this stuff. But that might happen. That could happen. Does that make the Earth flat? No, and I hope that you guys, if you're interested, look up Admiral Byrd, because there's some really fascinating things that he talked about. He talked about how the North Pole wasn't as cold as some people thought that it would be, and that it's actually somewhat habitable, and that there's a whole lot more going on with our governments and with our militaries at the North Pole than they want to talk about. He was silenced on that, and that the South Pole was in fact very cold, but there's still a whole lot to explore. He said a whole area the size, maybe even bigger than the United States, that's there to explore, and that is going to have undoubtedly some really cool, really fascinating things on it. That is, that's really cool stuff.
I think you're kind of touching on probably a big reason why a lot of people believe in this, and why seemingly intelligent people will believe in this. Boredom. You look at some of the stuff like you're talking about, and some of the stuff is actually like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like I've seen videos on YouTube where it's like, it's like, oh, this is complete bullshit, but this is like interesting fan fiction in a way.
Sure.
Like, and that it fills this like, in absolutely no way would it benefit somebody's life to believing in this, but you could kind of get sucked in and like, oh, this is some really interesting stuff, and maybe it fills that sort of void in a meaningless life.
And we've all fallen down YouTube rabbit holes in our life. Yep. We've all done that. It's fun. It gives you something to do. It is exciting whether you fall down the sports highlights or old comedy stuff or old SNL skits or conspiracies like I often do, or other things. Another one that's a YouTube rabbit hole I fell down once a few years back. That's a fascinating kind of conspiracy that's really kind of like fan fiction type thing, like you just said, Ed, was the Saturn Matrix, or like looking at that one. Oh my God, fascinating, man. They did some. That it'd be a great movie, but I mean, it's BS though. You know, there's very little of anything to back it up, and that's kind of. And so imagine you're one of these guys that's into this stuff. And, you know, I was ready to call everybody who likes this dumb, and so is Adam. And Ed, I think you made a good point where you said, well, some of the people that do this really aren't dumb. Oh, some are dumb. Some are super dumb. Yeah, some are super dumb. But you know, imagine you're one of these people that I feel like it's an example of somebody that knows a little bit of science, like for instance, more science than me, but you know just enough to make it dangerous. You know, you know just enough science that you get caught in these flat Earth rabbit holes and get sucked in, and next thing you know, you're preaching to the world that moonlight is cold, and it's just water seeks its own level. Moonlight is cold. Density and buoyancy, not your magnetic magic. You crazy globetards. You know, I mean, you could see where someone could get sucked into this when you're, like you said, Ed, you know, you're bored, you're angry, you're annoyed because you've seen the government and NASA lie to you, and you've seen other people lie to you, and you know your third grade teacher lied to you about what Ferdinand and Isabella believed, and you know, and you're annoyed and you're bored and you get stuck on this stuff. But listen, Admiral Byrd has some fascinating things. I think there's a conspiracy there. NASA's told some whoppers of lies. From the 1960s to like last month. I mean, the most recent one that picks up in my mind is the Mars rover, the little robot who what was the thing he said? It's getting my battery's low and it's getting dark.
Something like that.
It became the meme where the Mars rover was dying. You know, it was turning off, and its last transmission it said. My battery's getting low and it's getting dark, and the people in NASA were crying, and then they released it, and everybody was like they talked about how it was sad, like, oh, the little robot, he was sending this last, like, he was like a human, they humanized him, like, he said this thing, like, it, you know, and they turned it into a meme, but people are like, oh God, that's adorable, that was its, like,
I fucking love science.
It was fake. It was fake. That stupid robot did not say that. And NASA, no, it didn't really say that. People are, and even like the NASA lovers were like, wait, what? No, it didn't really say that exactly. We just said that. Like you made that shit up? Are you kidding me? Like that was all over everywhere. We thought that was real. Like why would you lie about that?
Even if it were true, it just meant somebody anticipated the battery would get low. It had some battery detection, and when it got to a certain point, it transmitted a message. Like that's like
right, and it would, and in essence,
it's like when your laptop has a low battery and you get a warning that says battery remaining 5%. Like somebody programmed that message and anticipated that happening.
Right,
like,
and it's
or
at best it was simply like Tom Brady's wife says in I, Robot to Will Smith. You know, it's
his old wife.
Yes, his ex-wife. Yes, sorry. It's AI imitating intelligence. You know, I mean, it's that we've created this robot and made it speak English, so then when it sends its final transmission and gives the descriptor vowels or descriptor words to speak it sounds sad. But even that, it wasn't true. They made that up. It's like, why would you lie about that? And then as it turns out, the Mars rover actually turned itself back on a little while later. And I believe that's when the lie came out, was when they're like, oh no, look, it turned itself back on. I don't know how long it'll last, but must have some sort of battery backup.
Just like the Terminator when it found that extra.
Yeah, it just kicked in, and I currently don't know if it's functioning now or not, but it did turn back on at one point and start transmitting some more stuff. But that's when it came out, and they're like, oh, so it didn't die after all. And like, oh yeah, we made that up. Sorry, oops. Yeah, we just said that because we thought it was funny. Like, oh, so you're just toying with all of us now with your lies aren't even good anymore. You're not lying for national security. You're not lying because you think we can't handle it. You're just lying because you think it's fun to lie. Like, that sucks. Thanks, NASA. What's that even about? So, I don't know. I mean, for those of you guys out there listening, there's some cool stuff to look into. There really is. And I'm not trying to skirt anyone or keep anyone away from potential, the quote-unquote conspiracies. Because I believe in a lot of conspiracies. I do. And I don't like the fact that people who believe in something are made to feel stupid or crazy or like they can't say it out loud in public. But this one, I'm sorry, man. I just don't buy it. I don't see any proof as to why the world is flat. It's just not. I mean, it's... this to me is lumped in there with the whole Australia isn't real conspiracy. Just totally goofy. It's actually, that one has some more, like, the whole Australia is... Are you guys familiar at all with the Australia is fake conspiracy? Oh, no? I thought for sure you'd know that one, Ed. This is an internet thing, too, that Australia is fake, that Australia began as a prison continent for the Brits, and that the Brits were lying. They were just sending them off in a boat to die. There wasn't really a colony over there, and then because of that, they've just been lying about it ever since. And anyone you met from Australia is fake. They're part of the conspiracy. Anyone who has been to Australia, you're either lying and part of the conspiracy, or you were fooled by these sinister travel agents who sent you there. It's just some little place, some warm place somewhere that they pretend is Australia. But I lump this flat Earth thing in with the Australia is fake phenomenon. It's silly. It's just it was started by some people. I think most of the people spreading it initially were being goofy and trolling, and then some people took the bait and others ran with it for real. But I don't know. Any thoughts? Any more thoughts on this? Do we want to do final thoughts? Or you guys got some more stuff you want to throw in, or anybody? Adam is going to Pumpkin now. He's grabbing Pumpkin. But Ed, any final thoughts?
So I think it's not hard to say you're born today and you learn how to speak some language and understand other humans and turn on your TV, start interacting in the world, and realize things aren't exactly as they seem. You just turn on your TV. It's very easily to realize you're getting lied to. I think most people get to that point, and I think where a lot of conspiracies come in is people try to start to make sense of the world around them. And a lot of conspiracies, I mean, there's stuff I believe in that are conspiracies, but I think a lot of conspiracies are traps, and if they aren't actively adding to some sort of coherent worldview, then they need to be discarded. And I just don't see with this how this improves or adds to any sort of coherent worldview at all. Like, it seems like you get into it and people have to make up all these things to keep it going, rather than it being like wow, that's a really good explanation for everything, and now things all of a sudden make sense. Like, that doesn't happen.
I don't know. I know they like to say there's no proof out there. There is. Mm-hmm. There's proof. There's proof of gravity. There's again, I'm not a physics person myself, Josh. Mm-hmm. I believe in the science. I'm not a scientist, but this is all stuff that has been out there for hundreds of years now. Scientists have been studying gravity and, in the laws of physics on this planet, like I said, for hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. It's nothing new. It's nothing that is worth lying about, like I said earlier. I think flat earthers are fucking silly as hell. I do. I think they're silly people who, and I think I don't know. Ed may have been touching on something earlier when he said they're bored. Maybe that's the case. Seriously, though, get a fucking better hobby.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think this is just totally asinine what these people believe.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of that might be like Josh was kind of pointing at, like, do they really believe this, or are they like, maybe some of them think it's kind of cool and edgy to be like, it's their way of being defiant. And
you know what? You know what though, Ed? Maybe some of them are like that, but I remember watching this. Documentary on flat earthers. And
is that the Netflix one that came out not too long ago?
I don't know if it was Netflix.
Because I heard there was a recent one that was actually pretty good.
Yeah, but they
like very interesting, like just about their lives.
About their lives, but just the amount of time and money they put into this, like money putting together like conventions and going to these conventions, and
that's where I think, like I said earlier, I think this is a purposeful like shill. Like, if you want to get into conspiracies, I think the real conspiracy is that this is actively being promoted by people who basically know it's complete bullshit and are making money off of it.
And Ed, maybe that's and
it's a trap.
And maybe that's it. And that's something that I can believe. I mean, hell, we talked about Scientology before. And I think that's a perfect, almost a perfect comparison to something like this as this gets bigger. Because I think Scientology is a bunch of bullshit.
Is this almost like poor man's Scientology?
It might be. It might be.
Like, hey, that's kind of interesting. Like, okay, I'll donate to the church. I'll learn more about Zimu or whatever the guy's name is. Zenu. And then Zenu, yeah. And
which we were not even supposed to know about.
In the meantime...
No, you got to pay money to get to that point.
In the meantime, I confess some, like, horrible things, and they get some dirt on me, and then it's like... Oh shit! I'm stuck inside paying money for the rest of my life. Extortion.
Exactly, like the moment that flat earthers get their own ship and start sailing around the world, then you know what they're there. They're at that point. I don't know if it'll ever get to that.
They'll have to sail within the world.
They have to sail within the world. Yeah, got to be careful not to fall off.
We're somebody who's going to fundraise. They can put these conventions together. Why not, like, get a boat and just sail it down to Antarctica and, bring some cameras and record the footage and like reveal to everybody.
As the Flat Earth Society tweeted somewhat recently, the Flat Earth Society is growing and now has followers all over the globe.
Is that what they said?
Yes.
The only thing flat earthers have to fear is fear itself.
You know what though? That is a very... I think that's a very interesting notion that you brought up, though, about the conspiracy within the conspiracy. And
that's one I buy into.
That's something I can get on board with something like that. A couple of people at the top
as well
who are fucking tricking these people into spending all this money, doing all this shit to help promote some bullshit conspiracy. While, they sit there and watch their PayPal bank accounts, go, get higher every single day. Yeah, that's something that's the most believable part about Flat Earth conspiracy is the conspiracy within itself.
Listen, you guys, I agree with pretty much everything both of you said. I know that there's some people out there who like to tune into deep issues and hear a debate. But I feel like deep issues wouldn't be deep issues if the three of us didn't occasionally argue about them and occasionally all jump in and say, yeah, we believe this. And in this case, I'll jump in and say, no, we don't. And this is one of those episodes, we are all friends here and we agree on some stuff. We also disagree on a lot of things. But,
wait, does Alex believe in Flat Earth?
Alex does not believe in Flat Earth.
No Flat Earth?
No. And Alex is pretty woke. He's done a lot of research with me on this one, especially since it's summer vacation, and, he's had some more time to join me in my research, and, yeah, he thinks Flat Earth is pretty much bunk. And he believes plenty of other stuff along with the old man, but if I could take my final thought into actually trying to give it as some advice to fellow tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists like me. I don't like the term conspiracy theorist because it makes you sound like a loon.
It was created that way.
It was absolutely, that is known. That is a little.
That's not even a conspiracy.
That's a mini conspiracy within the conspiracy that actually was proven that the term conspiracy theorist and other things were thrown out there to make people like me look crazy and sound crazy. So if you're one of us out there, one of the people who wants to get woke, one of the people that wants to learn about these things, drop flat Earth, man. Really. Like, do your research, look into this stuff, and find the truths that are really there. Like Ed put it, find a narrative that not fits your will, but makes sense. That makes sense and can be used to something that gives you answers. But really, the flat Earth thing, man, I mean, believe what you want to believe, look at what you want to look at, but if you want to lend credence to other conspiracy theories, drop flat Earth, please.
And I think that's actually, with the conspiracy, that's probably the other reason that it's promoted, because there's plenty of people who believe in flat Earth, who believe in other conspiracies that, the three of us would believe are legit and true.
Right.
And if you're listening to somebody and it's like, okay, cool, like, I'm on board with this person, like, I know I can, vouch for what they're saying, and then they come out with something completely asinine, like, not even just something like, okay, well, I just don't agree with them on this, but just something like so overboard, you're going to lose people. And and I think it's promoted for that purpose, because this is one of those things that most people aren't going to get on board with.
Right. Nope. So if you're out there and you have a conspiracy theory that you believe and that you believe is truth, and or simply that maybe you believe needs some looking into, that is something that is worthy of being discussed, don't be a nice guy about the dumb ones, okay? Be willing to say, no, flat Earth's garbage. Yes, Australia exists. There's no Saturn matrix. But be willing to throw the other people under the bus who insist on believing every single internet conspiracy. And by the way, when I rip on Saturn matrix, I'm a simulation theory believer. I don't think that's a conspiracy. I think it's a theory. It's a scientific theory that could be true or could maybe not be true. I don't know. But that doesn't mean that it's a matrix being controlled by the devil on Saturn.
So are you saying the truth is out there, but the truth is not flat Earth conspiracy?
Yes, yes, yes. I want the fellow conspiracy guys out there, the other people searching for truth, to be willing to say which ones are the dumb ones. Don't let them. You believe in the Illuminati. You believe in that JFK was shot by the driver of the car. You believe that the moon landing, that NASA has some questions to answer. You believe these things or others. Don't let yourself get lumped in with flat Earth people.
Like I said, you should be striving to build a coherent worldview, not just collect an eclectic group of conspiracy theories.
Or goofy things you believe.
Yeah, like, analyze, give it some critical thought. How does this fit in with everything else? What proof is there actually for this? I mean, I think that's why it can be fun to speculate on a lot of alien shit, but proof is, you don't have near the amount of proof. Like, you've maybe got some things you can point to, but, certainly more than flat Earth, but, that's like why it's maybe better off that's another area that, you shouldn't go too heavy into, sort of thing. Like, hey, I believe that little green men are on Mars' South Pole. It's a pretty specific claim. Like, what the fuck could I possibly use to back that up with? And
right.
Flat Earth is very much like that. Like, how does it fit in? Well, it doesn't really.
Ed, I wrote that down, and I want to steal that because I love that terminology. It's just coherent worldview. I really think that's an excellent way to put it, and just an excellent stepping point for any person's potential ever-changing, ever-evolving ideology. Just a coherent worldview. I think that's a great way to put it, Ed.
Yeah, don't believe in something because, wow, it's a conspiracy and it's super interesting, you've never heard it before. Believe in something because it makes sense of the world around you.
Mm. I'm with you. Do we wanna see what Pumpkin has to say about this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Ed is dipping his hand into Pumpkin, who is getting light with ideas. So we will be refilling him shortly, as we've been telling you. But Deep Issues number 37 will be Adam Hernandez.
All right. Well, it won't be Deep Issues. Will not be Adam Hernandez, but it will be. Huh. I could have sworn we did this one before. But Pumpkin is...
Yeah, I'm not one to question Pumpkin.
Pumpkin is making the call once again. Did we do this one before? I can't remember.
We have thrown other ones in for a sequel show.
Well, what did you say? This is going to be the 30th one?
37.
37th episode of Deep Issues will be anonymous.
Oh, we haven't done that directly.
We haven't?
No, we have not.
So we've just done...
We've spoken about Anonymous on...
Like Deep Web?
On Deep State, other things, and we've talked about the origins of Anonymous a little bit in other shows. But no, I'm excited about this one.
I'm actually... Yeah,
No, so Anonymous, we will be talking about this, this internet group, this anonymous internet group. And
it's a decentralized group.
Yes, we will get to talk about this. We will also, we're going to cover some history of this.
I would like to have somebody from Anonymous on, but I'd be lying to myself if I would say I wasn't afraid to have.
Yeah,
somebody from Anonymous.
And you know what, Adam, I think that's where you think we've done this before, because we wanted to have somebody from Anonymous on, especially, we talked about this a lot on the Scientology episode. Actually, about Anonymous, and you were saying you want to have somebody on, but we're afraid what they might do to our system. I'm not gonna lie, these guys are pretty bright, and they really like chaos. So I don't want to get on the thing, and the next thing you know, the entire Empire media is just nothing but Rick Astley videos or something. But this will be a good one. So, Deep Issues number 37, what day will that be, Ed?
July 30th.
July 30th. It will not be July 30th.
No?
No. I'll be out of town. So, it will be August.
Oh, sorry. Oh, August 13th.
August 13th. Okay.
Yep.
August 13th, we'll be discussing Anonymous right here on webisode number 37 of Deep Issues. Perhaps we'll, since there should have been one that day, maybe we'll make it up. And have a second one in August, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But yeah, August 13th, right here back on the EmpireMedia.com, Deep Issues number 37, Anonymous. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.